get there.
You don't need this for
So
anybody
this
else?
is what I do. You know,
I don't believe so.
I'll take boxes since they questions. And I'll just put my questions up the screen.
All right, I appreciate it.
So. There's much more you can do on this PC. But yeah, you can create notebooks. You can have, I've got one for PLZ. I've got one for this. So you can do notes, all your meeting connections can be in there, everything.
You're just looking
It's all in
at
one
passports.
notebook. All you gotta do is open
I
it.
need to redo my passport.
And
Oh,
then
you
can
do?
take
So you kind of
emails,
triggered my thought.
I just did
What's out
mine.
there?
save it to
Yeah.
this tab
I
in
saw
my
that.
notebook.
Get your photos here.
Oh,
And it'll
yeah.
save it. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's what I did here.
I just got mine done, yeah.
What's that?
I just
So
got my
all these
passport here not long ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've got them.
Probably gotta get it redone.
I'm gonna put it
I
on
know.
here. You can just hit it and search it right there.
That's where it should be in the first place. I should
Where's
be.
this? Oh, I see her spacing.
What?
We'll have to do a one-note session.
Perfect.
There you go.
Made it home from Nebraska.
Yeah.
You should see everyone freaking out down there. They're so completely, they're just like, they can't handle, it's so cold. It's colder than here right now.
They don't know, yeah, they're not used
No,
to
they
that.
just, they're not prepared. And everyone's like, stay safe, stay
You
safe.
can do
And
this.
I'm like, man, this is normal.
This is nothing for
You
us.
can, but when you get to the
So
bottom.
my
They were-
home- my hometown is about 65 miles southeast of Omaha,
Oh, okay,
in southwest Iowa. So
okay.
it's about a
Hi, Joe.
6-hour drive.
Hey, good evening.
Yeah, between 5 and 6, yeah. And we've
How are
gone
ya?
twice. And every time we drove in a legitimate blizzard
How
the
about you?
first time.
Good.
We drove in a
Staying warm
blizzard
enough out
the
here?
first
I
time.
know, yeah, right?
Really?
And then this time, once we hit Omaha, there was snow, and they just don't do the same work on their roads during
No.
snow that we do. So it was just spinning out. Everybody's spinning out. It's just funny. So, but I made it.
I tried to do that.
Is this a donation or what is this now?
Yeah, that's.
I think-
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I'll talk a little bit.
We have a question.
Did you receive an FK1
Form?
Oh, I have it.
You can
You
jump.
got it, hard copy, you have to sign it.
Page up
Oh,
and down
that's what
to
it
see.
Yes, we have to March 5th.
See, that's what I was thinking.
I just got a
reminder that
Yeah, this does it too.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
But you have to-
you have this? 'Cause it
you
says
have
it,
to-
but-
You said you had it, we were
Okay.
gonna catch after the last meeting, but we both forgot.
That's what you land
Okay.
on.
Gotta
So we might
find
have
it.
to email you.
Yeah, we'll email you. Are you sure? I didn't scan it to you.
No, you said you had something more.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
it's not-
think I
it's not-
Have you gotten your mailbox lately?
No.
Okay, because it could be in this mailbox. That's what I got.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just this.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, we
See,
can-
I don't have
Yeah.
any.
Yeah.
Your mailbox is kind of full.
Same as the
Notice
public.
mine
I
is
can
like-
notice
Probably could do it right
it's
now.
city letter.
4
It's
hours.
actually different.
That's it. There was nothing.
I did add a little piece. I added this paragraph, the city will, there's so much public open house. Just to kind of say, you come to that. It might as well be in the mailing and in the publication.
Have a
Do
new
it all at
page
once.
to say assign that template.
So that's
Added.
my intention, and
You've got
then.
it.
Okay, okay.
We set that up by March
Like
3rd.
minutes, if you have to.
It's in the schedule, but yeah, the first week in March, something like that, yeah. Yeah,
I'll just work with
You and I
Kathy.
are definitely gonna sit down for sure.
right,
So
here's the notice, here's the, so it's just, you know, it's all the same.
Thanks, Kathy.
The notice.
I hate
Mailing doesn't have a letter. I don't know, official people might
Okay, what time?
throw it away.
Okay, sounds good. All right, well, go ahead and get started. Lori will be a few minutes late. Pick her daughter up. In Rochester at 6, so it should be right. You're short. So. We'll do the roll call.
Shields?
Jim Richards.
Ryan Nyquist.
Dana Bergner.
We have an agenda. Is there any additions or corrections? I want to make a motion that we approve the proposed agenda.
Second.
Comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Approved. Who's on Zoom? Okay. We have our public forum. It's a 3-minute time limit per person. City Council welcomes and encourages participation from community members. Please keep in mind that your comments must be pertinent to city business and must adhere to data privacy rules. No employees' names may be used. Please do not expect action from the council this evening regarding your concerns. We also request that your comments be limited to 3 minutes. The speakers will be recognized only once. At this time, we ask that anyone who would like to address the city council to step up to the podium, state your name and address, and fill out the form that's provided. So with that, is there anybody that would like to come forward, make some comments? Second call for public forum. Third and final call for public forum. Seeing none, we'll close the public forum at 6:32. Okay. The first thing on the agenda is dedicated to our Homestead County Sheriff's Office. And Sergeant Mark Chambers is our contact. And but with us tonight, we have the deputy, or we have the sheriff, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm substituting. Oh, that's how it turns around.
Kevin, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Appreciate it. Are they gonna be able to hear me well enough if they're out there watching or?
The speaker's in the ceiling here.
Oh, okay. All right, good. Well, I usually speak loud enough anyway, so we'll see how it goes. I'm gonna hand something out here quick to everyone. I'll be using this, and then it's something you can, there's a lot of reading in there, but, so I'm not expecting you to really go through that too much while we're talking. There we are. And then one for Lori while she gets there. So what this is, we've gone through a whole bunch of changes in the office, and Sergeant Chambers is actually one of them. He's off tonight, so that works. I'll just talk about that in brief. Have you met him yet? Has he been on here? Okay,
Yes.
good. And he's got that all covered. So he'll be here when he can, when he's working, and you know, and then when he is working, when there's not something that's not, you know, just things that pull him away from being able to come to meetings and stuff, because he is a working sergeant on the street. So, but we do want him to show up, and then every now and again, I hope that Captain Wallace, who is the new patrol captain, will be out. I don't know if you've seen him yet at all. Okay, so he and I just talked this morning, and I'll make sure that he understands that, and I mean, that shouldn't be a problem. So let me just go through this, and this is a lot of what this is about. Reason for me to want to come out and see you. We've been through a whole bunch of changes. We kind of did a little restructuring last year, so this page here, it's really hard to read, but basically the point of it, and this is on page 3, is that our office is, as most sheriff's office or all sheriff's offices in the state of Minnesota are set up, we are required by statute to do law enforcement stuff, which most people understand that, but we're also required by statute to do detention and have the jail side of the office. So that's why we have 2 different parts here. There's the detention side or in the bottom, and then the law enforcement side on the top. And then there's captains and the chief deputy on both sides, and just kind of give you a layout of what it looks like. We currently have 194 employees in the sheriff's office, actually 93 and a half. Rounded up all the time, so it's 94. But, and the bulk of them are on the detention side by just a couple. And then the rest are obviously on the law enforcement side. There are 17 civilian staff that support us, which includes 2 mechanics and a host of what most people would call clerical staff. And then that half person is a person that we actually have an opening for right now. And that is a person that takes care of the Regional Public Safety Training Center down by Fleet Farm in the southeast side of Rochester. So we had a retired firefighter from the city of Rochester that worked out there and did that for us for about 4 years, and he decided to fully retire now, so he's gone. But anyway, go to the next page, and I'm just gonna highlight the new faces in our office, so you have a face to look at, and potentially when you see them, if you see them, you have a little bit of background and then little bio stuff in each one of them. So at the bottom of page, well, for instance, obviously I'm there, and then Terry Waletsky is the chief deputy for the law enforcement side. Terry's got extensive experience in our office and actually worked for a couple of police departments before coming in our office a number of years ago. And then the third one on that page, on page 4 at the bottom, is Chris Wallace. That is the patrol captain. He's brand new in that position. We had some retirements, a couple of surprising retirements. Our previous patrol captain, David Satsky, got a really good offer he couldn't resist from actually within his family to start a new position, and it's really nice for him, and it was a good deal, but it all of a sudden, very suddenly left a hole in our office because David was very experienced and had a lot of great background and knowledge and so on. So last fall, as we were going through some of this restructuring, we had a ready-made captains list, so sergeants who were ready to be captains. And Chris was the one that we chose then to go into the patrol spot after David retired. So Chris's background in around our office, his biggest portion of our office, biggest amount of work in our office has been as a canine deputy for a number of years. And so he's really tuned in with a lot of things for our patrol folks. So doing a good job there. The top of the next page is one of the changes in addition. And what we did to get this spot, we didn't add an FTE, which you're all familiar with. When you add FTEs, there's lots of costs that come along with it. We were looking at ways to enhance some of what we do and yet not add costs to the county, in a large amount, like adding a full FTE. So we made a swap. We had a deputy position that was focused mostly on traffic. And we decided to not use that person in that position any longer and swap that out with the first approval of county board and create that captain's position. So there is a difference obviously in pay between what the deputy is making to the captain, but it's not that terribly much, and it worked out pretty well. So that position then became this administrative captain position that Tim Parkin is now holding. Tim has, again, a lot of experience around this, probably the least amount of years, but Tim has a great educational background. He's about to finish his MBA, if I'm not mistaken, and just is doing a great job. So what we did with that administrative captain spot is our patrol captain from way back to when I first became a sergeant, so back in the 90s, the patrol captain, as we increased the technology in our office, the body cameras, the squad cameras, all that stuff, the squad cars got to be so much more involved. The patrol captain was managing all of that and basically wasn't able to get out of the office and was doing so much administrative work. He really didn't have a chance to be out actively with the patrol staff doing what we really want him to be able to do and be free to do, and that is be the patrol captain. So that was the big piece of it. Then taking some contracts, some other things that go on within our office that are not only contracts with cities like Orinoco, but agreements and grant work and some of those things, all that stuff got taken away from the patrol captain, the chief deputy, and our investigative administrative captain, and court security. All of that got shoved right to Tim Parkin, and he's doing all that stuff now, and he is very, very busy. So it was a great addition and change to our office, and that was one of the things that really motivated a lot of our needs to makes a restructuring. The next spot is another new captain, John Jacobson, the newest of the new captains, just appointed at the first of the year. And he is now the county's emergency manager. As you know, many years ago, the county under the sheriff's office under Sheriff Borkart, we had a civilian emergency manager way back to the days when it was called civil defense, back from the 70s and before. That gentleman, David Carr, retired. And at that point, Sheriff Borkart made a swap similar to what we just did and said he was going to take that civilian position, make it a captain's position in our office. And that created the emergency management captain position, which was one of the places I filled in for about 5 years before becoming sheriff. So in that position now is John Jacobson, again, very experienced in our office. He got put right into the middle of probably the second phase of all of the vaccination planning and all of that. So he got jumped right into that whole process as the emergency manager for the county, as well as he's in charge of our training division for the law enforcement side. Captain Scott Behrens has been in our office for a long time. He's not new. He's one face you might recognize. He's been our PIO, our public information officer, and investigative captain for quite a number of years and does a great job there. And then the last change on the law enforcement side is Mike Bromberg, who was our captain in emergency management and had been in the emergency management area for about 15 years. He was there when I was there. Mike moved then after we had another retirement as Captain Vince Shekel left at the first of the year and became one of the coordinators of the law enforcement program at RCTC at the college. And so we had another opening that we weren't anticipating. So Mike took over the violent crime enforcement team, which is basically, most people would look at it as a drug or narcotics task force. And that task force is unique again to our office. Not unique that law enforcement has those positions, of course, but it's unique to our office in the sense that the captain in our narcotics area is also the commander of the entire Southeast Violent Crime Enforcement Team, the regional narcotics team. So he's in charge of 19 officers and deputies from various cities, large and small, and the counties throughout the region. And they are a busy bunch of folks, no doubt about it. And so Mike went from a very different part of our office to very aggressive and kind of behind the scenes part of the office in that sense. But he's really happy with the change and doing a great job. Then you switch to the next page, the page 6, for the detention side of the office. And Ryan Howard is the chief deputy on the detention side. He's been also with our office for a very long number of years, and was put in that position when I became sheriff, and has really done a very nice job there. David Adams and Macy Tesmer, the next two captains, have been in their positions, both probably going on 15 and 20 years. So a lot of experience there for those folks. And then we did the same thing in the detention side. As you might imagine, in detention part of the world, the DOC, Department of Corrections, Department and the Bureau of Prisons, there's all kinds of requirements and audits and things that have to go on within detention. And again, those things have continued to add up, which was bogging down basically, both Captain Tesmer and Captain Adams. And so we added that administrative captain there too. And actually, one of the other things that both of our captains do, those two administrative captains, besides that, those contracts and audits and all that work that has to be done, they also are working on the continuous hiring that we're doing. We've gotten large enough now in our office that we actually test for new licensed deputies 4 times a year, and 3 or 4 times a year on the detention side. So we've got right now on the street, we have 6 brand new deputies that started just after the first of the year. And right prior to that, we had 3 deputies that started in the middle of December, I believe it was, on the law enforcement side. We've got a lot of new faces in our law enforcement side compared to where we were with all these changes and moves, retirements. We just lost a guy last week to go up to be part of the state patrol class. So we're already too short on the law enforcement side. And checking with Brian Howard, Chief Deputy Howard this morning, he's 4 people short on the detention side. So it's a continuous evolution in our office with getting new people, and both the administrative captains are going to be very familiar with all the human resources challenges that go on with hiring people and testing and all that whole process. So that's, you can read the rest of it. There's a bunch of other information related to each of those divisions within the office that, again, some things that maybe some people don't always know so much about, but we thought it was really a good time with all these new faces to come out to you as our contract cities to give you this little update on our office. And then there's a few other things I just want to talk about. For us, COVID-wise, we've done really quite well, and knock on wood every time I say that. We have had, I think it's probably in the range of 13 to 15 people in our office that have had COVID in one way, shape, or form. Nobody that's been horribly sick. We've had a lot of people that have had to, like everybody, take some quarantine time because a loved one or someone in their family. We've had a mother-in-law that lives with a deputy, and that deputy had to be off for 14 days and test and do all that work. So we've been working through that. We haven't had a situation, again, knocking on wood, that has created us to be in a spot where we were short-shifted or we couldn't, we were scrambling to do that. We've been very fortunate on both the law enforcement side and the detention side to have avoided that. And that credit is totally on our deputies, taking it seriously when they go to calls. If there is potential COVID-related illness, if it's medicals, things like whatever, first responders and people do here too, the same challenges. We set up decontamination stations. So if we did get someone who was arrested or had to be transported that potentially had COVID, which we did have a few of those, then we could take the squad car, the deputy, and the whole works down to a site that we could do everything we could to clean them up, actually launder their uniform right there on site. We were really set up and the folks have done just a fantastic job. In the detention side, same thing. Again, when I say 13 to 15, that's the whole office entire as far as the number of cases. In the detention, we've had, I think it's 4 or 5 detainees at some point in time that might have had COVID or did get tested positive. And that again is just credit to our staff doing everything they can to separate detainees, have a plan if they did get someone who was sick. Our medical staff that's done a great job there, where you go around the state, certainly the Department of Corrections, if you looked into that at all, they've had some massive outbreaks in some of their facilities. We look at a detention facility as a long-term care facility. We've got people who come in there who aren't usually of great health. They're not taking care of themselves, so there's a lot of vulnerabilities there. And again, credit to the staff that has been able to do everything to minimize that as much as possible. We actually did have just last week and 2 weeks prior to that, 3 detainees all at the same time. So some of those numbers are really small, but we just had a little bit of a scare. And, staff did a great job of working through that. So it's been good. We did do, when COVID started, we worked on a program with our corrections folks, community corrections, which is probation, and the courts, and the county attorney's office to start doing what we call pretrial release. So we did release some people out of the facility that initially couldn't post bail, but they were low level offenders. They weren't violent offenders in that sense, and we got them out. So when we were able to do that, so we basically put them on pretrial probation. And so they were still being checked on, and they were still being monitored in that sense, that they weren't, getting into some kind of trouble before they had their trial or their case was to be heard by the courts. And again, that worked out great because we were able to shrink the number of people in the facility to about half. So normally, those weeks and months before COVID started, middle of March of last year, we were hovering around 160 to 170 to 80 detainees on any given day. And we've been now, we were as low as about 50 at one point last summer. And now we've been in the middle 80s for the last several weeks to several months. So we've been able, with those smaller numbers, we've been able to spread people out. If we did get someone sick or potentially sick, they were able to separate them. And again, it's just worked out fantastically. And that's pretty much the same process almost every sheriff's office in the state followed, if at all possible. Some of the facilities are pretty tiny jails. They certainly don't have our numbers or numbers like what Hennepin or Ramsey County have, but we were able to maintain that. But now on the other end of it, if you were to talk to County Attorney Mark Ostrom, we got a big job ahead of us, because what we've done is they've, at a couple of different points in the process of COVID, they shut down the courts. They said no more courts, except for new arrests and people that had to come in and have bail hearings and stuff like that. That has caused us to get to a point where we're all kind of scratching our heads. We're going to have a meeting later this week, again, to start talking about, okay, how do we start coming out of COVID? Because right now, last I heard from Mark, there are about 5,500, 5,300 cases behind. In other words, hearings behind schedule. That hearings that should have been heard and haven't been heard. They've been chipping away at it, trying to maintain that. It stayed around that 5,200 to 5,400 for several weeks and months now. But at some point, we got to start doing this. And we've got to start having these cases heard in court. We got to start having these trials. The county spent, I think it's around $3 million, a little better, to build a new courtroom that can hear jury trials and have people spaced out like this. In fact, even more spaced out. It's the second floor of the annex building to the south of the government center. And that building will be opening up, I think it's the 1st of March. We're going to start hearing trials in there. And we've got some serious cases to hear. We've got several murder suspects, defendants that are in the jail at this point from cases that I know you've heard of and you've seen some things in the news. So we've got to chip away at those. There's a lot of other cases that need to be heard. And then as we start hearing all these other cases, some of them are going to get adjudicated and we're going to have to hold them back in court or in jail and finish out their, whatever sentences they might have. So we're going to see that number rise in our facility. In the meantime, we're still trying to figure out how we manage COVID until everybody gives us a thumbs up that COVID's over. And we're all hoping and waiting for that for sure. We certainly are. So a lot of this is, still ongoing, but it's a battle that we've been dealing with and fighting with like everybody for, going on almost a year now. So we'll keep moving with that. The other factors in some of what we're looking forward to in some ways, not necessarily all that excitedly, but we are also monitoring what's going to be happening in Minneapolis coming up, starting on March 8th with the trials up there, the one trial, and then potentially the 3 others later this summer, and how that affected us here last year after the incident where George Floyd died. That had some effect on us. We had demonstrations and rallies, and one night got a little out of hand, but a lot got done, but there was some damage. So we have to be conscious of that. Plus, we are hearing requests from Hennepin County, the metro area, Minneapolis, if we can help supply and support them, because they're going to have their hands full as well. So that's been in the news lately because there's a little bit of a rub between the legislators and the governor on supplying some money to help support that, to pay for our people to go up there. If we send people, if we're able to, we will have our hands full here too. So we're monitoring all of that and trying to see how that is going to affect us. Can we help and support other agencies, or can we just keep people here? Rest assured, and this is the point of why I'm saying this, we are certainly not going to leave the cupboard bare here back at home. You're always going to have deputies available to respond here to Orinoco and townships and every other place in the county. We have a plan if that's where it goes and do that. We have a pretty good plan at this point as to, how we can do it. But at any time, we have an agreement with them up there that if we get in a situation where we need people back here, we're calling them back and they'll come back and there's no questions asked. Just so you know that, you're aware of that, we have a plan and, we certainly know that our number one responsibility is back here in Olmsted County, definitely. The other thing I mentioned contract, this is a contract year, so later on this year, Captain Bromberg, too many captains all of a sudden. Captain Parkin and Chief Deputy Wallace will be reaching out again and we'll go through the contract process. So we'll just know that we're aware of that and we know we need to reach out and work through that again. As I was looking at the map and projections on how big Orinoco could potentially grow, it's good that we do this every few years to keep track of what's going on and what your needs are. So be thinking of that, what you might want us to do and how we can support you. We'll figure that out as we move forward. The other item that's really big on our list right now of things, and I say this more as a public service announcement to you and anyone that may be listening. The drugs in our communities is horrible right now. You may have seen some of the news reports from the local news of the city of Rochester was able to seize 180 pills or $180,000 worth of drugs last week that were Oxycontin look-alike pills. They were fake Oxycontin, they were stamped, they looked real, they looked like the real thing, but they were laced with fentanyl. And we've had a bunch of overdoses in the last 2 to 3 weeks and months. Again, it's just an awareness thing. The other side of this is prescription drugs. And not saying that meth and marijuana and heroin and all this other stuff is not an issue, but opioids, certainly the fentanyl, the pills, prescription look-alike stuff, and other prescription drugs is a serious problem. And in our county and across Minnesota and the region. So my request of you is through this format tonight is we have a prescription drug take-back box. We probably won't be able to do drug take-back day again this April. We couldn't do it last October because of COVID. I don't believe we're going to be able to do it again in April because of COVID. So our take-back box is permanently in the front door of the detention center. You don't have to be, you're not going to get locked in or anything like that. You just open the front door. There's a big sign up above it says where the prescription box is. You go in there, you drop it in. It's not for Pepto-Bismol. You don't have to worry about that. It's for prescription drugs with the label on it and the safety warnings and stuff from your doctor that you get from a pharmacy. It's there 24/7. We'd love to have people drop off those drugs there after someone's been through, whether it's cancer treatments or, whatever it may be, those long drawn out illnesses, or maybe an individual in a family dies, there's drugs left behind because of their long illness or whatever. Please, that's where those drugs should go. We don't want them flushing them in the toilet or just leaving them on the shelf. We know that there's people that we deal with that go into homes, and one of the things they do, whether they're invited or not, and this can even happen within your own family, where a family member over for a holiday, not that we've been doing a lot of that lately, but we know that around Thanksgiving time, Easter, there's people that will go in your home. If you're selling your home, put your drugs away, hide your drugs. People will go in and pretend like they're actually looking to purchase your home. And one will spend a little bit of time in the bathroom and take a few pills out or take a bottle or whatever, but generally it's just a few. We've actually caught people in homes doing that. So it's a serious problem. We'd love to have people take advantage of the prescription drug take back box. It's It's easy, it's simple, put it in a Ziploc bag. You don't have to worry about the labels. It's all safe and secure. Our task force people take care of it. Everything goes right from that take backs box from it looks like a little kiosk, almost like a mailbox, basically. It's just a little drawer, you drop it in, and it goes and it disappears. It goes from there with our narcotics people right to this secure evidence area. And then when they get enough boxes, they take it to an incinerator and it's gone. We don't take the labels off it. We don't have to do anything to it. We just burn it. So anyway, that's what I had on my quick list of things. Do you have questions?
I have a question. Do
Yes.
you have any literature on like the warnings you were just talking about with the oxy laced with fentanyl or the take back box? Because we are looking for things for our newsletter for the
Oh,
quarter.
I don't have to put that away. I'm sure we do. We can figure out where we can, how we can get it to you and do that. I know we have a social media specialist. That's what he does, is he creates things. So I know we've got something. One of the other things that COVID did to us is we were going around the county, mostly related to the schools that we have school districts in. So we're not connected to Pan Island and we're not into Rochester, but the other small towns where they have schools before the fire and the Yoda is over. We were doing a community awareness nights and advertising the heck out of that. But again, since the schools got shut down, we didn't do that. But we had a lot of literature there. So let me just make a note. Prescription drug info. I'll have somebody drop it off up here. Yes.
A question along those same lines. So it may be in that literature, but if someone wanted to get rid of or dispose of the prescriptions, but can't get out to the drop-off box, what's the best way to do that?
Well, if they have a family member or somebody that could. We haven't gotten into the offer being, hey, have a deputy come and do it. Pick it up. What the DEA, and we can't do that because the DEA won't allow us to do it. Every time we do anything with those drugs, there has to be 2 people assigned to it, so 2 officers. So we don't have that.
Is there a smash them up and dissolve them in the
Why
dish?
wasn't I thinking of that? Yes, there is another option that you can get, and it's sorry, I don't have the name of it, but I'll include that in that information. And I know we pushed that out on our social media. You can get it, I think you can get it at most of your Walgreens, your drugstores. And it's actually a little bag with a solution. You put the drugs in there and you mix it up and it dissolves it. And then you can actually throw that in the garbage. So there's that option too.
Yeah.
I didn't think of that initially, but thank you for that question. And I'll include that in here too. Yes, ma'am.
There's a little bit of confusion on the new building on the 37th Street that's being redone, the old Think Bank.
Yeah.
That's being used, it says law enforcement.
Nope, that's
No.
Rochester Police Department.
Okay, so
City.
it's Rochester.
Rochester
Okay.
Police Department.
So the
Yep.
county is now.
We're still downtown, county government center. There is, and this is where I hate to really start saying too much of this because it does get confusing. You're absolutely right. People can pick up a report up there. But the problem is if they pick up a report up there at the police department, and yet then they still need to talk to a sheriff's deputy or investigator, it defeats the purpose of having them pick up the report and then have to still go downtown. So we're just telling folks the easiest thing to do, we're still located downtown in the government center on the 2nd floor. And let's just keep it that simple. Yeah, that's the police department. It is law enforcement, but it's Rochester PD.
Okay.
And that's where their chief and what they did is, so this was last October, they moved the chief and his whole group of command staff people, as well as 2/3 of their patrol division has moved up there. What they have still at the law enforcement center, the government center where we are, is all of their investigators and the other, did I say 2/3? 3/4 of their patrol divisions up there. The other fourth is still downtown. And, you know, come in and go out of there. So, and then the records area, the bulk of the records division, which is a shared division between us and the police department. So where people come and pick up their accident reports and whatever other things they might need, it's still down there. And then our dispatch is still down there, which is also a shared entity. Yes, sir.
Just a couple of quick comments. First of all, I appreciate Sergeant Chambers. I've had a couple of residents call me, and I've shared those with him about residential speeding in residential areas. So
Yeah.
they've set up some alternative radar enforcement areas. So I really appreciate that, and that really helps out, and the residents see that happening.
And keep that in mind. It'd be either Captain Wallace or Sergeant Chambers would be your go-to in those kinds of things. Again, like any other emergency, it's still 911 for any kind of a thing. But yeah, those are your.
And the other thing is that the city's applied for grants from the State Farm Safety Community for 2 radar speed signs, solar powered.
Fantastic.
So we'll hear about that by the end of March.
Yeah.
And our plan is to initially put one on Minnesota Avenue, a couple different places, but there'll be mobile with more posts we can put around on Lake Shady or any other streets as well. So.
Yeah, that's great. Let us know through Sergeant Chambers or Captain Wallace when you get them and where they'll be located, and they'll pass that around to our, you know, so they can be out. We'll do that. And again, if there's areas that I know where you're talking about, I was aware of those, you know, complaints in one particular area. And I think there was another one too. And I know the guys and gals are going to go out there and make a bit
Just
of
the presence there really makes a difference. Too.
What's that?
Just the presence of
Just driving through, yeah, I know it, yeah, exactly, so, you know, we haven't added patrol people, in a few years now. Because of the new courtroom, we had to add, actually 6 deputies, 3 detention and 3 law enforcement folks, but they're being used and will be used as utility deputies. So they're going to be in everywhere, but their main purpose is to provide the security in the new annex building where that new courtroom is. But what's unique about those utility deputies, if there isn't a trial going on, that they need to be over there keeping that courtroom secure, then they will be able to be put anywhere. And so if we have unique situations like what we've talked about, or anything else that, you know, if we have, we've got catalytic converters, we got people that stealing stuff like crazy right now around the county too. A couple of our guys actually got into some good information the other night, so I'm hoping we could put an end to some of this. But we can take those utility deputies and put them into specific assignments and say, okay, you're going to be doing this week or these 2 days or this half of a day. You're going to be out here. You're going to go patrol Orinoco and do stuff like that. So that's the neat part about these utility positions, which we had 2 of them, and now we'll have 5 on the law enforcement side to be able to do the court stuff as they need, maybe do warrants, do civil papers, but also be available to go do a little bit of a patrol saturation.
And for the council's attention, I believe the contract calls for an hour and a half for each shift, for 3
Yep.
hours per day.
Yeah,
Is what they patrol here in Orinoco. So
yeah. And typically, you're getting far more than that. Most of our cities, even Stewartville, it was 24/7. It's not unusual as we have an app on our phones where I can sit at home, I can sit, you know, at my parents' whenever I get to go see them again. I can sit anywhere in the country, and as long as I got Wi-Fi and I've got the connection, I can look up and see where our people are in the office and what the calls are and things like that. The beauty of technology. And it's not uncommon, like in Stewartville, for instance, we could have 3, 4 deputies down there right now, and their contract only calls for 1. And so, you know, we're generally doing much more than that. So it's, again, something we can talk about. And I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but that'd be something that when it gets time to do that, we can bring those numbers to you. And usually that's what we do, is we bring you the numbers of how much coverage you're actually getting versus what your contract is asking for. And generally, those numbers are much higher.
Okay, well, great. Thanks for coming out.
You bet, my pleasure.
We appreciate the update.
If there's anything else we can do, again, please, we're here to help you all out. So,
Thanks for your
a
service.
lot. Thank you. You bet.
Thank you.
Okay, Dan? What would you like to share with us?
Good evening. So pretty quick, don't have much. So we had 2 runs. We had a diesel spill a while back, right during the cold spell. So luckily, knock on wood, that's been our only call. It's just a very small spill. We just put some floor dry on it, but they wanted to, somebody had to do a lot, so they just wanted to clean it. And then we had a lady letting her dog out, dark 30, hit the key bed by mistake, so got us all up, find out there was nothing, so. That was uneventful, but so that's the 2 calls we had. And then we did get another donation, which we always appreciate. So I thought I'd just read it quick from Olmsted Medical Center. Dear friends of the Warren Local Fire Department, first responders, as we start the new year, we at Olmsted Medical Center wanted to say that we are grateful for the important job you do to keep our community safe and help our friends and neighbors when they need help. Please accept this gift to support your efforts in the area of greatest need. Here's wishing you and your families a healthy, hopeful, and happy new year, 2021. It was to the fire department and the first responders. The check was made out to the first responders, so I gave it to Geraldine, so it's kind of more money used for it for the department, so we appreciate that. So I think you have a motion or
Cover the resolution second.
yep, later on. So that's it for fire. First responders, you can see 8 city, 6 township. And then we have a member that has not been showing up at all and just decided to call it quits. So last month we moved her from department. So I guess I'd like permission to remove Hannah from the first responders.
Motion to approve removal of Hannah.
Second.
Any comments? All those in favor, to remove Hannah Sugar, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It's approved.
And then nothing for EOC. So I completed your form.
Thank you so
So what
much.
you're gonna do, you sign here.
Okay.
And you also.
Okay.
That's not covered here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks,
And
Gary.
so this form is for our state fire aid, so every year we have to certify that we have a bunch of stuff. March 15th is the deadline, and we get our money later.
Thank you. Any other comments for Dan? Good, thank you.
Good, thank you. Thanks.
Next item is personnel and garbage bid. We had a request for contracts, quotes, and we received 2 of them on February the 10th. Both of those are in your packet. Got a chance to read them. There's one from GFL, Green for Life, Environmental, and the other one is from Waste Management. We have a representative from both contracts. Do you have any comments, either one, would like to speak to the council?
Sure. So I'm David Meyer, the general manager for GFL. So our situation's a little bit unique. Waste Management purchased advanced disposal, which I was the general manager for. So as outlined kind of in our proposal, a majority of our management team has stayed with GFL. So we were kind of, involved, like I was taking care of Gold Rush with Mayor Ryland. And, there's a couple advantages that I really like about this change for us. The first thing is all of our customer service is going back to local. So when your residents call, the calls are going straight to Rochester. To me, that's an important thing. When you call someone, they're not getting a call in Arizona or Milwaukee. They know how to say Orinoco. It's not Oronico or whatever pronunciation someone's going to say from another state. So that's a big thing. Also, obviously, if you made the switch, everybody would get 2 brand new containers, which typically pleases people. And like I said, we've worked with you guys and we know what the city needs and we'd love to work with you under the new name.
Okay.
Any questions or?
I do have one question with your quote. You offered the 35 gallon, 65 and the 95 gallon. So you say with recycling, so is that a 35 gallon trash and a 35 gallon recycling?
No,
bin?
everything would be a 95 gallon recycling, would be the large recycling container, correct?
I didn't see that in the quote, that's why.
Yeah, I should have spelled that out. I apologize.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Today?
So I have a question in terms of like customer service, because I know in the past, and I'm a customer, pre-COVID, lots of times calling, you were never able to talk to a person. Is that going to change?
Definitely, yes. We have 2 people that are full-time. We're answering. We do have an overflow, so I'm not gonna say, it's 100%, but our call rate in Rochester, we're essentially gonna eliminate our overflow at some point, but like 90% of the calls are answered in Rochester. And obviously, our goal is to answer 100% of those calls. So we literally have 2 people that we hired in January, started at the beginning of January when we took over, and yep, they're sitting in Rochester and they are answering our calls.
Okay.
All right, any other questions for Dave? All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Jay, would you like to?
Got a minute?
Some comments? Yes, please.
All right. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my name is Jane Easton. I'm your local direct contact for the city of Orinoco. See, I said it right. That proves it right there. We're very excited to get the opportunity to bid on this. As David said, we did purchase advanced disposal. We did retain the majority of the drivers and some of the management staff who are familiar with the city. Our bid in there includes the Gold Rush. It includes the city containers. And we're excited to have the opportunity to meet the needs of the city. We do have computers in all of our trucks. And what that does is we can get addresses from the city for each stop. Those are put right at the fingertips of our onboard computers of our drivers. So if there's an issue with a broken card, that's entered in the computer and that generates a ticket for the delivery of a new card. If it's a not out, a late set or a miss, we're usually able to recover before the residents actually figure out that something's gone amiss. So we're very excited about just our combination of technology and service that we can bring.
All right, any questions for Jay?
Address the obvious question, which is communication
Communication, I'd be a direct line for the city.
within the city.
But yeah, we do for the city, absolutely. We also have Jason Dower is our district manager. We've got Lisa Hines is our ops specialist. And then Justin Ellingson is our route manager. As far as if a resident needs to call, we are fully equipped with an 800 number to handle it.
Being answered here, not here in Orinoco, but being answered.
Not here in Orinoco. There are some that are handled locally, but there are some that actually the overflow that gets pushed out, like you said, to Arizona, to sometimes in our Wisconsin side as well.
Thank you.
So in your quote, you offered additional services, waste management to provide walk-up service for those with physical limitations at no charge. So who do you call, who should our residents call for that?
That would actually be approved by the city on waste management. Obviously, we don't want our drivers walking a half a mile up a driveway. Anything less than like 100 feet. If we can see it from the road, we can set up a walk-up service if the need exists. And that'll go directly on the onboard computer, so our driver actually knows that that's somebody they're walking up for. So even if we did see our regular driver has the day off, we've got a fill-in driver, everything's there for them.
So they call a Rochester number to set that service up then?
Or they could set it up through the city and the city could call me and I could get it set up.
And there's no charge, there's no charge.
I do have one more question, just to clarify for me. You've got a solid waste container and a recycling container. If you have solid waste, do you get the free recycling or is that
I've actually got them, I've got them listed. I
separate?
broke out the pricing
You did, okay.
separately.
So for any customer, then it would be combined price?
Correct.
Thank you.
Is it an annual contract? Is that right, or is it a 3-year?
We put it in there as a 3-year contract.
You got in the quote, that's what I asked too.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Any questions for Jay? All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Okay, so we compare the numbers for the quote for the both of them. Okay, so if you look at the quotes, and if you look at the 35-gallon trash, which is recycling, was $21.69. And the waste management one was $12.74 for trash plus $5.50 for the 96-gallon. So that's about $18.24. If I did the math right, if you yourself have checked that out. So looking at it that way, adding the $5.50 each of the waste managements, comparing it to the GFL, which already has the recycling in it. The contract has those figures, so there's a 3 to 4. In the case of the 32-gallon waste management was $3.45 more, or less, I'm sorry. The 64-gallon was $4 less than GFL. 96-gallon trash with recycling was $4.07 less than GFL. So from that perspective, the waste managements are the least expensive of the two. The only other difference, both of them are 3-year contracts. Both of them have 96-gallon recycling bins. The waste management, the price increases was an annual increase of 4% yearly on the anniversary of the date. The GFL was 2.5%, but not more than 5% annually. If I read the contracts correctly. That's really the difference that I see, unless you have some other questions or if you look at the numbers a
What was
little bit differently
the,
than I have.
what was the contract for the GFL? Was it yearly?
A 3-year, yes.
3 years,
3 year, yes.
3 years, yeah.
And one question I would have, both of those with all taxes and fees included, right?
Okay.
The rates, so the rates we provided, that's comparing apples to apples, that's taxes on both of those rates too.
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So based on the quotes that we received, I'll make a motion. For the second purchase action, I make a motion that we accept Waste Management's contract for the prices that are stipulated in the contract. Cool.
I'll second it for discussion. I have one more question, Joel. Is any portion of this contract negotiable?
I'm sorry, for me?
Yes, please. Is any portion of the contract pieces negotiable?
Yeah, while we work through the contract, absolutely. Was there
Okay.
something,
Well,
in
I'm
particular?
wondering if you'd be willing to bring this annual rate percentage down 0.5% to 3.5?
We can do that.
Thank
But I
you.
think, in all fairness, I think it should be set at 4% for the discussion, but that'd be something that, obviously we could absolutely discuss.
I would,
I just don't want to adjust my rates during that.
no, but I honestly think, in fairness to the citizens, that's part of my job, is to negotiate a contract that's fair to them. And a lot of our citizens, some are doing well, some are not. We have older citizens and whatever that live on a limited budget. They don't see a 4% annual increase. And for those especially, I speak up and request that perhaps this be more in the 3 to 3.5% range for the annual increase.
If Josie, that's absolutely something we can discuss.
Yeah, I would agree. I guess, in all fairness to the other company, I think that's, if we're getting to a bidding war, and that's not really what we intended to do here. We asked for a contract.
Right, but I still feel like the contract is, we're to provide service to an entire community, and I think this community it's been good to both parties. But I do think that that's high.
Any other comments?
Thank you, Jay.
Seeing no other comments, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Hi.
Opposed? All right. 2-year contract for waste management. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming in and submitting your quotes. And have a good year.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Next item is building inspectors. Back up there was an email from Tommy Thompson. He's been with us for a long time. I don't know if there's a date in here when he started, but he's retiring or going into semi-retirement. And the other two gentlemen with him, Roger and Casey, will take over the inspection services for the city of Orinoco. We did check with our attorney, and there was no need to go out to request bids because it was a subcontract, so it's very legit what they're doing, and we don't have to go out to bid request. Starting March the 31st. And he's not like he's going to be staying on for a while until he really wants to retire. So I'm sure he'll know that day when it happens. We appreciate him staying on. I'm sure Roger and Casey do too. So. Need a motion on that or just an FYI?
I would know.
Maybe we're FYI.
Well, we
They are a commercial science manager.
Okay.
They are, we're signing something, we need a motion.
I have a quick question for our staff, if you don't mind. Does this contract change very much from the other one?
The numbers did not change at all.
Okay,
Nope, they're doing everything exactly the same.
okay, perfect, thank you.
And you know,
And they've all worked with him through the whole
Yeah,
time.
and they work very closely with
Yeah.
the staff, I know.
they have been very helpful. They've been awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Mhm. So I'll make a motion to approve the new contract for building inspection services.
Second.
Any other comments? Discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, sign. Approved. That's the first time I've really seen the race.
Well, I've never heard of it before either. That's was the original money signed how many years ago?
Next item is the gold bond, government bond. The 2014, that was $144,000 for the Gumbo Hills road improvement. And we're down to, Geraldine put a quick page together, $13,982 is the payoff for this 10-year loan at 3.25% interest. And we checked with our financial planner, Mike Pavani, and we thought it was a good idea to pay the loan off. The assessments from the homeowners will continue to, for that period of time that they were assessed, so it doesn't affect them, the assessment, but it just pays off the loan that the city took out. So I'll make a motion that we approve the paying off the 2014 gold bond loan. I'm assuming you'll confirm this payoff amount based on the time, $13,982.50. Is there a second?
Second.
More discussion or comments? No, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? It's approved. We have a series of resolutions, one ordinance. Yeah, we brought to my attention. We won't go there with the story. So ordinance and resolutions, these are voice vote. The first one is a 2021-02. And Joe, do you just want to speak briefly to that one?
Yeah, this is just a resolution that receives the feasibility report. So the feasibility report was originally submitted to the council back in December 10th, if I remember right. We discussed it with Sewer and Water at several meetings, Sewer and Water Committee at several meetings, as well as the council. If you remember at the January council meeting, I essentially provided a presentation that summarized the information that was in the feasibility report. Same presentation that we'd ultimately give at the public hearing. The resolution also calls for a public hearing of the proposed improvement. And so within the resolution, I think we're looking at March 22nd at 6:30 p.m. Here to have that public hearing. And of course, in conjunction with that, we'll have the meeting available via Zoom, call in, and then people also have the opportunity to submit letters to the city or emails to the city clerk for consideration and being part of it. So that's really what the resolution's about. And it's essentially a requirement of the assessment process. So it's consistent with the 429 statute and the steps involved with that process of assessing cost of benefiting.
All right. Thank you, Joe.
I have a quick question. Did we need to do anything for the open house for the next day?
Yes, we do. Not legally, but within the mailed notice and the published notice, actually, Ron and I were talking about that. I added a brief paragraph at the end that kind of says, and in addition to, the meeting, there's also this public open house that'll be held on March 22nd from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. For residents that are interested in coming to see the documents, look at the figures, or ask questions of city staff and officials.
March 23rd.
March 23rd, sorry. So that is a small modification that I would have to the published notice, as well as the mailing that will go out subsequently.
And should council be available then for that open house as well? Is that correct or not?
It would be nice if council has the ability to be there. Obviously, it's a 8-hour duration or whatever it is. I'll be here the whole time. I'm hopeful that Kathy or Jerry will be here, and then perhaps Ryland would be there, at least through parts of it. I don't have any idea how well attended it might be, but, and of course, the public hearing is intended to close the night before, so any comments that people have aren't part of the public record. It's just a kind of a courtesy to get the information out there and to address people's questions and give people the opportunity to, come in and look at the data and talk one-on-one with me or members of council or staff about the project. Some people are just not comfortable in that public hearing environment, of course, and we want to go the extra mile to make sure people have that opportunity to come in and understand what's being proposed.
Thank you, Joe.
Make a motion that we approve resolution 2021-02. Resolution receiving feasibility report and calling hearing on improvement. Second at 6:30.
Dana seconded.
There a second?
Dana did it.
Oh, yes, Johnson. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? I did check with People's Energy Cooperative if they'd be available for March 22nd, and he wasn't sure if they'd be available, but if they were available, they'd only be able to hold 19 people as far as social distancing. So we're pretty much left with our 9 people here in our Zoom. But there's a lot of good information that will go out with the letter, and we have the project summary going out, what's in your packet. There's also a Q&A that's going out with the packet and the notice itself. And so hopefully it'll generate some questions. I'll be encouraged to send emails or comments in before to city staff. And I think mostly that's in the letter. And the Zoom information will also be on that letter too. So I wish we had a better situation to have this place packed full of people, but we can't do that now. All right. Any other comments or questions? This is a voice vote. So all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye by voice. Jim, you want to start it?
Yep. Aye.
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 That's approved. Next item is a resolution for Gold Rush. We're anxiously planning for Gold Rush in August. We'll still be wearing masks and social distance to the best of the matter, but hopefully a lot of vaccines will be done by then or haven't. So, yeah, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
We understand the Walnut, Iowa show is June 20th, 21st.
I don't remember the exact
Sometime
date.
in June, but they're planning on having it, so. that's a
And
good
all
sign.
over, yeah, and all over the country, all the big, big shows are happening right now even. So I think we'll be in a much better spot in August.
A lot of,
Oh, I hope so.
Me too.
a lot of education going on since last August. So.
Right.
Anybody like to make a motion for that?
I move to approve resolution 2021-03, resolution approving the designated right-of-way during downtown Orinoco Gold Rush Days. Inc. Sorry. Inc.
Second.
Thank you.
Not days.
All right, you, this, I'm sorry,
Voice vote.
sorry.
Voice vote.
Yes, you may have any questions, or why we do this, Jim, or Dana, from your perspective, this is where we rent the right-of-ways on the outlying streets.
Okay.
Conform with all the right-of-ways that we rent out on inside. Okay. Other comments? All those in favor by voice vote?
Aye.
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 Approved. Next item is 2021-04, which is a resolution to approve the approval of application to the Minnesota Public Facilities Authority, or PFA as we refer to it, for loan for clean water revolving fund, drinking revolving fund for improvements to its drinking water system, municipal wastewater treatment system. This is for a loan of $8,159,000 for as the bid cost of the project. So
Can you say the amount one more time, Ryland? 8 million?
$8,159,000.
Yeah.
Of course, the final determination of the loan will be made sometime in 2023 when we get all the construction cost in and have a much better idea how much the overall project cost and what our local share is going to be. So,
Motion to approve resolution 2021-04 for the loan, municipal water drinking loan and treatment system.
the second,
Second.
comments or questions? Currently, Joe and I and Mike Devani are in some preliminary discussions with PFA regarding whether or not we're going to be eligible for a 30-year loan. We're not 20 for sure, but we're pushing for a 30-year loan. Joe, do you have any other comments?
I'm just gonna confirm this, is this the updated version of the agenda? So it talks about the $598,000 for the drinking water revolving fund and the 7.5 million for the, okay.
Do we have any clue on the interest rate yet, Joe?
Well,
Minimal, I'm sure, but yeah.
Typically, I would say 1 to 3%, probably closer to the latter. It really depends on the term too, so.
Okay.
Any comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by voice vote.
Aye.
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 Approved. We have a couple donations. These were given to us, I think in January, but we're just kind of making it official with resolutions, which we learned we should have done that the first time. That's okay. We're able to take care of it tonight. First one was Resolution 20-2105, resolution accepting donations from I-9 Bank for $1,000 to report the fire equipment fund. Motion that we accept resolution 2021-05.
Second.
Any comments? All those in favor by voice vote?
Aye.
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 Approved. Second one is a resolution 2021-06. Donations of $500 from the family of Joyce Bird for the first responders.
2021-06.
Second.
Any comments? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Voice vote, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Your turn. We hit ours.
Aye.
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 And we'll approve that one.
Click
Okay,
and clack.
so the last one is an ordinance. This is for rezoning, 2021-02.
Forget one more.
You forgot. Number 6.
No, 7.
Oh, 7, I'm sorry. For the $200 tonight.
Mine's 6.
I'm 6 too.
Ordinance 7.
2021-07. $200 from Olmsted Medical Center to the first responders and fire departments for the equipment fund. Someone like to make a motion for that one?
Motion to approve resolution 2021-07.
Second?
Second.
Any other comments or questions? All those in favor by voice vote?
Aye.
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 It's approved. Now the ordinance, 2021-02. This is Trish, do you want to speak to this one from the P and Z?
This is sitting up next to the Brendan Radke property that I think you're all familiar with. It is a 10, 11 acre piece of property. It is just simply not conducive to the B2 zoning. It is on a pretty good slope and just really doesn't offer good access and that sort of thing. So The P and Z did approve the R1 zoning for this. And I do believe there's a purchaser in the wing.
I talked to this gentleman, when he was just starting to do some research on it, and he actually had told me that he wanted to run his business out of the property and have a house there. So he had talked about splitting it, and I don't know what happened in planning and zoning, but that was his initial conversation with me.
There was no mention of that during P and Z. So we are expecting simply residential. If he wishes to do business, he would have to go back to P and Z and either apply for a variance or have it rezoned again. So at this point, I'm expecting residential only.
And
What type of business was it?
yeah, he said he worked out of his home and would run his business there as well. I didn't get a lot of information. It was a pretty preliminary call.
They didn't say anything about that at P and Z.
And Rick and Mary was the originals that I spoke to about
Right,
this
they
property.
spoke to me about it too.
Right,
Yep.
and Rick and Mary are, to my knowledge, not the current purchasers. There's a
No.
different one. So I can't answer anything regarding, yeah. All I can give you is what I was given during the P and Z meeting.
Is this within city limits?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Will this be served by water and sewer?
Yes,
At
at
some
some point it
point,
will be. We did warn the Realtor during the meeting that there will be water and sewer service to this parcel. So they are aware that if they put in water and septic, they're gonna be hit within a couple of years for a big expense for more.
Where are they on the phase?
You know, this property is right up in.
That is the property. No,
Satellite map, but.
So the person you talked to is the owner that, it
Well, I don't know who it is that
wasn't Brandon. Was it Brandon
no.
No,
that you
It's-
talked
it's-
to?
no, it
Okay.
wasn't.
some other guy that owns it. I can't remember his name either.
That Glenn Soley?
Solely.
Solely,
Glenn
yeah.
Soley, he's the guy who owns it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Solely.
that's who we spoke to.
Yes, he's
At
the
the
one
P&Z.
changing it before he
Yeah.
sells it.
And Sean-
Yes.
Sean Baruska is the
Sean's the
realtor.
realtor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I know Sean, but this was a gentleman who called to say, I want to purchase this property. How would I go about rezoning it? I would like to have my business there, but I would also like to have my house there. And so this could be a different person.
Sure.
I had a person last fall call me, asking, confirming what the residence was, and they wanted to do storage or something like that.
I don't know, I just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing by rezoning it. And then the other question is, that's on a paved road, it's a 10-acre parcel. There's already business there. Planning and zoning already did the future land use map. Are we sure we want 10 acres rezoned to residential? I know that there's a house up on the hill kind of next to
This
it.
is, okay, so you know where the,
I know right where it is. I've driven out
okay,
there.
so
Yeah, I know right
that
where it
property, if
is.
you look at it, has a pretty
Yeah.
good grade to it.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't think it's a real conducive property to a B2 property as far as being able to do most businesses there. I think, you know, if someone were running, let's say, a landscaping business and they wanted to use that property for something like that, yes. I think we limit the owner if we do that to him. If he's got a ready buyer that wants to do a residential property, I think if that buyer is looking to do business in the future, he'd be a fool to request that this be rezoned. So I don't think that that's the case at all. And there are other properties very nearby that are also larger acreages. So I do think it fits with the neighborhood, even though it's on a primary frontage road.
Sean originally called me, and they were looking at making a development for several lots. But then they called back and said the topographical didn't lend itself to really making a development. And there's some wetlands on the east side of it too. And then Sean called back and says, no, they've decided they want to do a residential, one house residential.
Okay.
They had conversations with Joe and I regarding water and sewer. And they're not planning to be, that phase to be done until 1B, which is 2040. So they talked to the county, they can put in a septic system, they can dig their own well, and that was okay with the owner.
Okay.
So I think we're in pretty good shape. So, but there was people early on
That were interested. I just wanted to make sure. My husband wanted to buy that property. That's why I know about it.
Yeah, and it would be, I would love to see it be commercial
He
because.
wanted to make it into a Christmas tree farm.
Now that would have been a
His
good idea.
I just talked to somebody else who wanted to do. Yeah, what I'm like, is the what the heck? Oh, wow, okay, that's a big thing.
Watching Homework movies? I feel like. You don't know.
Are we helping you out at all?
I just had, if it goes on, that's great. If this is what he wants, I just want to make sure it's in the right.
I do think there's businesses that could go in there, but I guess I'm trying to be fair to the seller. And
I just see the camper store right there.
and
And
that's-
it's right there, you know, it's like, there's business right there and what could go in next to it, and it's right along the highway. And I realize, I think it'd be cool to split it and have a you know, business property in the front and then have a home in the back part, but I just want to make sure we're on the right track and we don't.
I don't know why anyone would want the noise, personally. And that was one thing that I was thinking about in terms of noise, you know, have they done any noise study? But there are homes that are, there's other homes up there, Haney's up there, there's, you know, up by me, there's homes that are close, so.
I live about a quarter mile off the highway, and you know what, I really don't hear it unless somebody hits a jaybird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear the power lines buzz more than I can the traffic.
Well, and I'm 50 feet off the main road here. Plus I've got the highway, like you say, quarter mile away. And you know what? I don't hear them, and I don't keep my TV turned up to tune them out either.
Me neither.
You just get used to it, I think.
I think you do, yeah.
It's just like if you had a school in the backyard, you know, you wouldn't pay attention to the kids out playing.
Maybe on the train tracks in college.
All right, any other comments? I think we're
So I'd make,
Sorry.
let's say,
all in
I'd motion to
favor,
approve.
by saying aye.
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 Aye,
I
approved. The parking trails. Request for purchase up to $350 for every plans for the garden park. In the free budget, there's a, in your packet is a sheet, where there's a from the different flowers.
This is Lance's suggestion. We did not use even half of our tree budget last year. And we felt that it would be acceptable and a nice addition to the garden.
You make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
A second.
Is there a time frame for buying these plants?
I believe Lance was going to order in March.
Comments? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Water and sewer. Final feasibility study. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Good night.
I didn't really have anything. We kind of talked about the feasibility report in depth last month. hopefully all the council members received the new version. There was an additional figure and some relatively modest text changes, a little bit more detailed schedule. We added as an appendix, the wastewater or the water feasibility report that was previously prepared. Anybody have any questions on anything within the report? Shouldn't have been any surprises, but there's a lot of data there and hopefully it's helpful. I think I'll work with city staff to get this on the website tomorrow.
I'm just gonna ask you.
Along with, you know, the frequently asked questions and project summary documents that I'm going to email out shortly.
So this is the final, so we need a motion to accept.
Well, you kind of accepted the feasibility report
We did.
as
Yeah, I was
the
gonna say, I don't think
resolution.
so, because we've already, yeah,
Okay.
we've been there, done that.
In your packet, very briefly, it's not on the agenda, but there's a FYI, this, or every year we submitted an MOU report and had a meeting with the MPCA and County Planning Department. This particular year, because of the bonding bill money and everything going forward, there's just a report that was requested. And so that's in your packet for your records and kind of explains everything that's been done to date. And, was accepted by the MPCA for this year, so we will not have a meeting. We have a copy of the report.
Oh, I got a quick question for Joe. Where are we with the MOU with the county? Is that still good? Did they extend, right?
Yeah, it was extended last year. And so, yeah, we're good until I think the fall of 23.
December 2023.
Okay. Perfect, thank you.
Yep.
Next time is this is a letter, a draft of a letter that's going to go out to 500 citizens and businesses.
So the one without the letterhead essentially is published. And this talks about the public hearing that we'll have on March 22nd. I see I have 7 p.m. instead of 6:30 p.m. So we'll do another QC on this and make minor modifications. In addition, like I mentioned before, I'll also propose to add a little blurb at the very end talking about the public open house event being the 23rd of March from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and kind of saying that we'll be here if they want to drop in and ask questions or look at the report. And then I also want to work with city staff to, put a link to the Zoom meeting within the notice itself so people, we got to do our best so that people can have a sense of this. Were there any comments or any concerns about what we have kind of within the notice or any thoughts on how to maybe improve upon it? We did look at different venues and I'm not sure.
And the call-in number and ID is up in the letter as well.
I'm a little worried about the Zoom and people feeling confident in it. Because there was some back and forth on the citizens page about, it hasn't been working very well for people and whatever. So I just want to make sure that we're really confident that night in how we're gonna do it.
We'll be honest, no, but.
No, well, but because the other night it was the taking of question, it has to be the person running the meeting. What were we
Right,
at? Water and sewer,
So I think if we,
right? That,
We had issues in P and Z too. We couldn't get
okay,
it.
like poor Kathy, she was running back and forth. You know what I mean? I just want to make sure that's not happening and.
so I think if we leave it like the half screen so we can see them come in. And even if Joe has control of it at that point, somebody can watch or hear for the ding, because
We have a
like
little
tonight, I
alarm
got
now.
it set up so a ding, and of course, nobody comes in. But, and it'll just be that then, yep, we'll have to, because you can't you can't have more than one person on the screen at the same time to,
Well,
let
and I
them
think
in.
if Joe is signed into this computer with his Zoom account or with the city Zoom account, whatever we do, you need to present from that computer, however we make that happen, so that,
yes, he just needs to be
I
up
would do a
here.
test run too.
yeah.
But yeah, and we
That would be
talked
my
about doing
advice.
that, you know, we can send, you know, we can do it with you and Ryland or
Right.
somebody at, you know, home so that we can, you know, verify
Or
that.
do it with Joe.
Yeah, that's my only
Yeah,
concern
'cause-
about that, making sure we have that.
Am I totally confident? No.
Well, I know it's technology. I mean, it doesn't, like, I did a call with the governor, or I did a webinar with the governor the other day, and there's like terrible broadband at the mansion, governor's mansion. And he kept glitching out, and he just finally had to call in by voice and couldn't even be on the, so yeah, technology is just.
See, if the governor can't do it.
I know, that's what I mean.
You have like high expectations.
I'm just saying, I know that other people are worried about, I mean, citizens are worried about not being able to be heard. And that is a worry, you know, that's obviously something.
My concern too is, and it's just, we're limited by this is a 25 meg signal coming in here.
Right.
It's not 100 meg like some of us have fiber optics, so
Okay.
And I know at
hopefully that's not
PNC,
an issue, but if we do have people that, to help with that, we could just ask people to call in and drop the video,
Right,
and that would help,
yeah.
so.
because I know at PNC, we couldn't get,
Glenn,
what was Glenn? We couldn't hear him. He was talking. You could see it move, but
So he probably at that point, and that's, you know, I've been taking some classes online too and going through Zoom, so it's kind of like, okay. Yeah, you know, you can unmute people on our side too.
yeah, we did that. But he must have had something on his side.
It was a glitch
'Cause I
on
do
his
Zoom
side.
meetings
You could
all
see
day
the
long.
microphone flashing like he was talking,
Okay.
and we had done all we could do to get it.
I think it was
Yeah.
his side,
And was
actually.
he at a gym or someplace? Because he had said he had someplace had a kid thing at some point that night. So, okay, he was at home. But, yeah, so just in taking some classes, I've kind of, you know, picked up a little bit here and there, not much by means.
No, it's hard.
But, yeah, like today I watched a Zoom thing on Zoom, a tutorial, so that's how I found out how to get the little dingy thing on. The dingy he did.
It did weird me out that nobody was in here today, so I was just gonna try to see if I could jump in.
Okay, so for those of us that need to, motion to approve consent agenda?
Second,
So the rest of the stuff, I think it's just FYI. Right?
Oh, I had one thing.
Yes, Joe.
Sorry to jump back in, but, you know, we're preparing this, we prepared the frequently asked questions in the public hearing, project summary documents that we'll send out in the mailing for the public hearing in March, right? And so one of the things that I think, you know, there are just couple little tweaks that I want to do with these documents before I send them out. But one of the things that has come to light is when we'd actually have the assessment hearing. And so if you look at this public hearing handout, there's a schedule at the end. And it kind of talks about, well, when would the assessment hearing be? And it says October 2023 with the first payment due essentially with taxes in May of 24. Well, as we work on the PFA application and we work with PFA and we work with Mike Ubani, we're looking at different cash flow scenarios. You know, one of the complexities, as Ryland had mentioned before, is when you start up a system, you know, we're cash starved in the first number of years. As you know, money starts to flow in and users increase and things happen. And so there are some options for us. One of the options is, well, we'd like a 30-year loan. Well, maybe we can get that, maybe we can't get that. Maybe we'll be not stuck with a 20-year loan, but have a 20-year loan. There's some other things that Mike has suggested that we might do. And one of the things is, instead of assessing it and having that funding come in 24 with the assessment hearing in the fall of 23, when everything's supposed to be complete. Well, what if we move that up a year? And we assess it in 22 and then have payments due in 23. And so essentially what that does is you have money flowing into the utility and you're building up some cash flow. That helps you pay for things, you know.
Is that
It's-
legal?
Of course. In fact, when we did like some of the paving projects, Cedar Woodlands and River Park and we assessed the improvements before they were done. Before we even started, in fact. Now, you can do that. It's completely the city's choice. The statute allows it. You know, the drawback is well, you're assessing people before they really see the improvement. And so people understandably get heartburn about that.
I was gonna say, so you might get some grouchy folks.
Well, yeah, you might. All I'm saying is it helps the utility, it helps the city. And so one of the things that I was thinking about doing is saying, you know, kind of walking that back and saying, you know, assessment hearing date to be determined either October of 22 or October of 2023. You know, and just leaving it broad within the schedule and saying, you know, we're looking at a lot of different things here. The council will make that decision moving forward. It's either going to be in this window or that window. That's what we know today. I can't ask you to make that decision because you don't have all the information. That's not fair. People should understand that. But all I'm kind of saying is it would allow us to keep our options open. And so that is a big change. We could get a little pushback on that theoretically. Doesn't mean the decision's been made. Doesn't mean that it absolutely couldn't be just like it appears here. But if I put it in here and I say it's going to be in October 23, and then I come to you in 4 months and say, you know, it'd probably be better in 22, it's pretty hard for you to walk that back. So,
The term is still the same.
yeah,
You're just starting it earlier.
you're starting it a year early, and I think everybody can appreciate how that influences the cash flow.
But you're gonna have quite a few people right from the get-go who are going to be putting in, signing up, whatever. I guess I kind of feel like October 23 is good because you're not really starting anything until 24 anyway.
Well, that's not, just kind of build on that a little bit. When we initially start the treatment plant up, we will be able to connect 441 residents on that first day of operation.
Well, and, you know, kind of walking that back even a little bit farther, connections will really start for the grinder stations, probably July, August, September of 23. And if you really walk that back even farther, depending on how the contractor approaches the water system, you know, people could have water improvements available to them even sooner. You know, if the contractor wants to be real aggressive and get a lot of work done, they have the ability. We're not going to say no. But, you know, you could have people with water service available then too.
But the water service is already going. It's already generating
Right.
itself.
But all I'm saying is if you delayed, you could have people with water available to them in 22 and you wouldn't be assessing them until 23. And so it's kind of the opposite of the wastewater
Water
system.
service will still be assessed, will it not?
Will be
As it's-
assessed
as
at
it's
the
hooked up?
assessment hearing.
As it's hooked up, because the water thing has already, I mean, I'm hooked up. So hasn't it already been through an assessment hearing and all that?
Well, we're adding people to the system.
Right, but the assessment for the water, the hearing for the water assessment has already taken place. It's just adding new people. No,
That's what we have.
The hearing for the water, it's there, the project's one project, and so we're having a public hearing. Public improvement hearing for both sewer and water improvements on March 22nd, and then there'll be a public hearing for assessment in either October of 2022 or October of 2023.
got it.
And I'm kind of saying that that assessment hearing is going to be for properties that benefit from the addition of water service to their parcel and for the addition of sewer service to their parcel. You know, some get both, some get one, some get the other. And so I'm saying that some of those parcels, they theoretically could see water service in October of 2022. Their water service could be available to them. You know, we put in the water mains, the curb stop could be stubbed out, the street could be reconstructed, and it could be there for them to connect. And if they do connect, they'd start paying utility fees, but they wouldn't pay the assessment until we have the assessment hearing, and then it goes through that cycle. And so, whereas on the water side, we can't really, or on the wastewater side, we can't connect people until two things happen. First, the treatment facility has to be operational. Doesn't have to be complete, but it has to be operational. And then all of the collection conveyance components. So the lift stations, the force main, the trunk sewers that would intercept those grinder stations, that's all got to be operational. And so that's going to start in the summer of 23. It won't be done until the late fall of 23, but people will start getting service. You know, it could be.
Well, they can't get service until they're hooked up to it, to the plant, to the facility.
Right, but if you're getting a grinder station, or if they tie over the subdivisions, River Park, Cedar Woodlands, when that happens, it's like that. They're on. And so.
Right, but you're basically saying, okay, let me ask you this. Let's just step it back just a little bit. If you do, can you do an assessment hearing on the water? And then a separate one on the septic, because it sounds like there's the option of getting the water and it's already hooked up and going, but the septic is not. So it makes sense to me to assess for water earlier than to assess for septic.
I guess, you know, we can do anything you want. I wouldn't recommend that approach. I think.
Administratively, is it overhead administratively to do that way?
Yeah, I think there's a number of complications with that approach. You know, it's all being constructed under one umbrella. And then so to start breaking that up and have assessment hearings at different times for different elements is problematic.
Okay, let's move on.
I just think, you know, if we change the schedule to provide some flexibility for the city to make a decision, we can defend that. I think we can defend that.
And
You
it's
know,
flexibility. We're not talking, it's not a for sure thing.
it's not, yeah, I
Just build it in the documentation
yeah,
that it's TBD, basically,
yeah,
and then we have the option to go either way.
yeah.
Personally, I like the option of being able to start a little bit early, so you've got it on hand when you need it to carry you through. But yeah,
And that would help
I
with
would-
our operation maintenance. That's like $237,000 a year.
it helps sustain right away.
Yeah,
Start pulling that ahead sooner, then we can build up some funds to help with O&M until everybody gets on board. For those first 4 or 5 years of operation, we're gonna need some additional funding, potentially, either from our CIP or our tax levy. Hopefully, we don't have to do,
And you're gonna
or
need,
combinations of it, whatever. We just
Right.
don't know yet.
yeah, 'cause
So-
you need staff ahead of time and everything.
right. There's more parts to fall here. There's more information coming. PFA is working on different scenarios. I just don't want to tie your hands
Right.
needlessly.
I like the idea, of just
Okay.
TBD.
To be determined.
To be determined.
Yep.
But it's an important subject, some people want to know, but we need to share with them the options and premature of telling you for sure.